Okay, this is going to be the fifth and maybe final video, depending on how far I get, on Intro to Java Programming. Last video we covered functions. We're going to still deal with some more of those and build on our knowledge there. For this tutorial, you're going to have to use Eclipse because working with multiple classes, which is hard to show in the website that you're able to probably do some of the other tutorials in without the Eclipse setup, but you need to have Eclipse set up for this to work. With Java, I'm just going to go File, New, Java Project. We've been through this a lot. I'm going to call this Classes, and I'm just going to finish with that. And then from there, I'm going to go down to my source file. We are going to now be adding multiple classes this time around because that would be more typical of Java programming. Educate soft dot classes. I'm going to call this first one main, just so I know that it's kind of aware of my entry point for my application. Make sure I click that box there, finish. If I wanted to do basic math in my program, I could go integer. Let's go right away. Let's go right away to the function. So let's say I want to build a function inside my program that does something. So we covered this last video. Public static, and we're going to go integer right away, and we're going to just make a function that adds two numbers. So I'm just going to go num1. I need to initialize that, num1 int num2, so it's going to take two integer values in. I know that my return type, which I set right here with integer, so I'm going to need to return something, so I'm going to go int sum equals num1 plus num2, and then I'm going to return the sum, and I should have a working function that just adds two numbers. If I had integer number 1 up here equals 10, and integer number 2 equals 20, I could call this method down here add, and add the arguments, those two integer values, number 1 and number 2, and I should be able to get a result. With that, now it's going to return something, so I need to return this to something. So let's call this integer total equals the result of the adding there. And then let's just display it, system.out.println, and we want, I don't even care about saying anything, string.value of total, and then we should be good. It should just display our total for us. So we just have this adding. This is my main, my program's running. It's going to go down here. It's going to get this total. It's going to run this method here, this add method, which returns the sum of those two numbers, and then we're good to go. And then it's going to display that for us. So let's see this in action first. There we go. And so it should say 30. Perfect. Okay. So what happens if I have a complex program where I have all these different calculations, and I don't want this add floating around. I want to organize this a little bit better. I don't want it in my main class. I want to move that somewhere. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm actually going to cut this. Cut it. Now, you can see we have an error. We're going to deal with our error in a minute. But we're actually going to move this to a new class called calculator. Let's make a class that handles just calculations. So what I'm going to go is go back over here. I'm going to right click, new, and we're going to go class. I'm going to name this class calculator. And I don't want it to be my main function. I just want it to be a regular Java class. And I just want to hit finish. Okay, so now I have a new class. You can see it created here. So I can go back and forth between my two classes. But I want to move that function in here. So I'm just going to add that function in here. So along with that function, now I want to have a whole bunch of math functions. So let's go Control V. I'm just going to paste that. I'm going to call this one sub, and instead of doing that, it's going to minus number 1 minus number 2. I'm going to have another function in that calculator that I'm going to call multiply. I'm going to call it mul, and it's going to, the star is my symbol for that math, so that's going to multiply if I call that. And I'm going to have another one that is just going to divide. The slash is going to do the division for me, and I'm going to call this one div. Okay. So that is a good looking class. So I have a class that's called calculator. Now how the heck do I use these calculator methods in my main class? You can see right now my main class is errored, so that's not a good thing. So a couple ways I could do that. Okay, because I named them with this public static, I can access their methods, but I need to know how to do that. I can just call calculator. I can use dot notation, dot add, and then notice, okay, I'm able to draw from my calculator class by using that. Okay, it's included in the same package. I can access that calculator class, and it gets rid of my error message. As soon as I hit save there, it should be good. And I can hit that add. Now I could also do the easily integer, I'll say subtraction. I could call and access my calculator dot sub, and again I could go number. Notice it's now starting to read my mind for me, which is I like to see, and number 2. Okay, and I could add those, and then I could also put in the value here. So again, let's just copy and paste to make this simpler. I just want to display the output of the subtraction as well. Control V, string value of subtraction. Okay, and that actually worked out pretty well. It's going to display that. So let's just, I'm going to add some text in front of this. Addition result. Notice that I'm just adding that and then a plus sign. Let's add a colon and a space. And then I'm just going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to call it subtraction result. Okay, and you can see I've called 2 methods. So this is a method for addition, stored in the total variable, subtraction stored there, and then we're just going to display those down here with a little bit of text. And so you can see addition results 30, subtraction results -10, which makes sense. Number 1 is smaller than number 2, and I could call multiplication. I could call all those just with those results, and I could actually have the display if I wanted the display to be part of that. I could add void, and then it's just displaying those results there for me. But this makes more sense of how to access those. Okay, so that is one way that we can quickly access another class. Another thing that we could do is we could do what's called in Java, we could extend. So we could put extends calculator. What this does is it's going to grab, if I put this extends here, it's going to grab the methods from that base class, and it's going to be able to use those. Okay, so it's going to use those methods from that base class here, and I could access them now without having to put that calculator kind of keyword there, which is kind of, you're going to see this when you do robotics programming a fair bit. So now, notice I don't need that calculator class. If I didn't have this extends here, I'm just going to cut that out. It would error. Okay, so that is a way to just eliminate. If you're just extending one class, that's a way to eliminate having to write that calculator each time just by putting that extends in the main method. And you can see our result is going to be the same. Okay, and then we get that there. So for the last couple minutes, let's talk a little bit about inheritance. So let's say that I had another, I wanted to use the methods from calculator a lot, but I wanted to make out of that calculator kind of base class, I actually wanted to make a scientific calculator. I still wanted to be able to do addition, subtraction, multiplication, but now I want to be able to do exponents too. If that's the case, what I could do is I could right away do a new class, okay, and I could call my new class scientific calculator, and I'm just going to leave all that. I don't want that public main either again. And now this new class, though, I could right away, let's get this one to extends calculator. And by what that's going to do is right away it's going to give me all of the methods I have in calculator. It has already. It's already got them in there. I don't have to write them down. It's just this is my base class and this is my secondary class. Now I could write something that would do an exponent for me. So let's just do, let's say I have a method here, public static expo, and we're going to say it takes in a number 1 again, or num1 that is an integer value of a number that is going to be the number, and then the second one is going to be int exp, which is the exponent number. And then we're going to go here. Oh, you know what I forgot is a return type. Public static, well, I want it to return an integer. And so in this case, I'm going to need to add a little bit more to this method to make this happen, right? It's not just straight addition, subtraction. So let's say, let's go a for loop. For, well, and we'll just go integer count equals 0. And we're going to say while count is, we want this to loop through, while count is less than our exponent number. How about that? And then we're going to increment count. We learned about looping in previous lessons. So this is, if you don't understand this, go back, check out that lesson. Okay, so, and we still need a return type down here. So let's just return, what do we want here? We'll just go total. Let's go call this product. And we'll just declare a product. Uh-oh, I don't know what I just did there. Okay, hit insert. Int product equals 0 to start. So we just don't get the errors. Okay, so this is going to be the value that we're going to return down here. So now we're going to do something with that. We need to do the math here. So inside our loop, what we want to see happen is it needs to multiply by the number of the exponent. So we're going to say, to start, actually, rather than being that, product should be equal to the value of num1, right? And then inside here, we can go product equals product times product. And so let's check our logic here. So what's going to happen, we have each time, okay, this loops through, okay, the product is originally set the first time through, it's set to whatever number this is, say it's 5. That would be 5 times 5, which is good. Okay, it's going to loop through, then it's going to, new product will be 25, and then that times that by 5, and it will continue on until that's there. Now, I think that our count is going to have to be till that's equal. So it's greater than, or sorry, less than or equal to exponent number is more appropriate. And then it's going to give us the exponent amount there. Now remember that we've extended calculator, so this is just an add-on. This is like add-on scientific calculator feature here. Okay, so if I go back to my main class, okay, rather than extending calculator, now let's extend scientific calculator. Notice we still don't have an error, even though the add and subtract classes didn't exist in the scientific calculator in terms of code. Because the scientific calculator was extending that base class calculator, we didn't need to. Okay, so let's try and just go back to our main, and let's see if we can display this. Okay, so back at the main class here, we're back there. Now you can see we've now extended not just the calculator class, the scientific calculator class, but if we look back here, notice that there's no add or subtract messages because the scientific calculator actually extends the calculator. This is what we call inheritance. Okay, so if I move back to that main function, just because I have this here means this. I don't need to say anything more about this. It's already. If I hover over top of that, you can see it's knowing that's going to come from that calculator class. It's tracing that all the way back to there. Okay, even though I'm just extending scientific calculator. And so from here, though, what I'm going to do is now I don't want to display the subtraction anymore. I want to display the result from the exponent. So let's put that exponent result, and let's change this value here to, let's just call this integer exponent, and change this to exponent. Okay, so now this is actually a method that we've declared in the scientific calculator that's in addition to the calculator methods that are already there with that extension. So let's see if this displays the actual exponent. Now, these numbers are a little bit big for us to work with. Let's start simple. Let's go 2 and 2. So we should have an addition result of 4, and we should have an exponent result of 4, and then we'll change those up. Let's see what we get here. And let's just go main. 4 and 0. Okay, well that's obviously not the result we want, right? Why are we getting an exponent result 0? Well, this is a good time for us to check back and see what our problem with our code is. Int count is 0. Product is number 1. Okay. While count is greater than or less than or equal to exponent count product. Why is it returning product or exponent that is 0? Let's get rid of this. And did we maybe not put the right variable? Let's check back on that main. Oh, you know what we forgot to do? We did 2 times 2. I forgot to change this value. So expo. Okay, and so notice that should help us out. I've got that changed to the right one. So let's try that again. I was wondering what the heck I was doing. Actually, I want to go back and change. I think that needs this greater than or equal to sign. But we got to test this. Sometimes when you do these loops, you got to kind of check and make sure that's going to work. So here we go. Okay, so we got 4, and we got an exponent result of 256. Well, that can't be right when we have a number 2 here. So let's go back to our scientific calculator. Let's just get rid of the equal then sign. And let's see what we get this time around. Product set to number 1. Just should be 2. Product times 2. It should only loop through twice. Let's see how this goes. 16. Well, let's go back to our main. Why is that the case? Okay, looking at this a little bit more closely. First of all, I need to change my count to 1. I need that to start with 1. Just otherwise it's looping through an extra time, which I don't want to happen. Now where my problem is here, product times product. Well, that's going to become a ridiculous amount. It's going to double up each time, and that's why we're generating such high numbers. What I need, and I'll just re-examine the logic here in a second. What I need to happen is I need to initially set this to number 1. Okay? I need to loop through as many times as the exponent says, timesing itself. But itself is here, number 1, not the product, because the product each time is multiplying by itself. So when I get through this, then we get the return product, which makes sense. So let's kind of go back. Let's just run this. Let's go back to and see how our main looks here quickly. Exponent result. And so now, if I have 2 and 2, I should have 4 and 4, and then I can change those numbers up. and just do a little more of a test there. Let's run that. 4 and 4. That makes more sense. Okay, 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 to the power 2 is 4. So 2, now let's change this to the power of 3. Okay, so what would 2 to the power of 3 do for us? Well, that should be 2 times 2 is 4. Times another 2. Well, what's that going to give us? Let's run this. Should be 8. Okay, so we have 5 and 8. 2 plus 3 is 5. 2 to the power of 3 is 8. I could switch that up again. We're going to keep getting bigger. Here, 6 and 16. 2 plus 4 is 6. 2 to the power of 4 is 16, and that's making sense. Okay. What I hope you kind of learn from this is that we can use that kind of extends so that we don't have to write so much code in each individual class. Okay. And by separating our code into classes, we can understand where things are and how to run things. To be honest, we want the least amount of things that we can happening in main, and kind of designating stuff out into these classes so that we don't have to think about, well, what the heck does that class do again? It's easier than having all these functions within main here for me just to say, okay, I got an add function here, this is happening. Now, if we didn't want to extend this up here, right, if you maybe you wanted to extend a different class or whatever, we could always get rid of that in the main and just type in here scientific calculator dot add, and it would be fine. It can grab that scientific calculator is extending our calculator, so that is fine as well. Scientific dot expo, and that's extending there, and that works just as well. We know that that scientific calculator is specifically extending that calculator class that has the add function in it. So we have all these kind of initial calculator things. We've added to it in here by extending calculator. And then in our main, we just have the simple, this is what's happening through our program. Okay. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of idea about classes. I think this is going to be a good enough base that we can now start looking at either programming in whatever specific IDE you want to work within, whether that be robotics, whether that be working within Android. This should be a good enough base to get you going on programming Java in whatever environment you want to work in. There you go.